Is Latvia affordable? What do rents start out for? For people that want to go check this place out, they want to go say, hey, this might be a potential place to retire. I love the seasons. I don't need year-round warm weather.
Look, it's Ray, it's very affordable, and I think Europe has certainly recognized that. It's kind of a staple now in terms of, look, you're looking for a cheap getaway or a cheap weekend. Riga is a great little option for that. But I've always been fascinated about real estate and rental prices and values, not only here but internationally. It's just kind of a thing that I do, right? I like to know what's going on. Very affordable. I see one bedroom apartments, I mean, we're not big, right? This is
Yeah.
Europe after all,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
a one bedroom, 50 square meter apartment, what's that? 550 square feet, something to that effect.
Yeah.
Uh, 450 euros a month.
Can I ask you a quick favor? Adventure Freaks is growing, but over 80% of you watching right now aren't subscribed yet. If you love tips on affordable living and retiring abroad, hit that subscribe button. It's free and it really helps us grow.
So today we're heading over to a country I don't know a lot about, and I've always been interested in this country. It's Latvia. And today my guest is Paul Pasco. Paul, thank you so
Yes,
much
sir.
for doing this, man.
Absolutely. My
Better
pleasure.
known, yeah, better known as the Tan Santa. If you look at his YouTube channel, it's called the Tan Santa. Check it out and subscribe, man.
At Tan Santa on YouTube. Absolutely. It's new, but it should get real interesting.
All right. Well, Paul, man, thanks so much for taking the time to do this, man. I appreciate it because I've been very interested in this, and you're obviously a rare person because the difficulty I've had is finding somebody from the US or Canada that lives there, and there's hardly anybody.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit of first a backstory about who you are, where you're from, and how you landed in Latvia.
Okay. Well, Ray, it's a bit of a story, right? I'm a 57-year-old man, and it all started in about 33 years ago when I was 23, right? I was born in Washington States in Eastern Washington, very agricultural in that regards, rather rural, very nondescript upbringing, moved to the west side of the state, lived in the Seattle area until about 18, 19, graduated high school. And then I kind of migrated down to the Tempe, Arizona area with a couple of buddies of mine. And look, at that age, wasn't really doing much. Not a whole lot of direction, drinking a lot of beer and bouncing at some college clubs, right? I carry a bit of mass with me. I'm about 250,
Okay.
about 6 feet, and they've always kind of had that. So, look, the weather was great. I had a real nice badass tan, but in terms of life direction, there was not a whole lot going on. Fast forward a few months, I went to high school with a Swedish foreign exchange student, and we became very good friends. And he um,
That's a
he bounced back off to Europe after high school, and we kept in touch. And like I said, a couple years after graduation, I ended up down in Tempe. He called me up one day and said, "Hey, I want to come visit." Crackly line, didn't really know. Yeah, okay, come, come.
yeah.
He shows up on my doorstep, and we proceed to have just a really good about 12-day party hard session in Tempe, Arizona in 1993, right? And he was telling me about this crazy life that he was living in Russia, of all places, and that he was working for a Swedish-Russian joint venture operating a casino, a nightclub, and a restaurant in St. Petersburg, Russia, right?
Wow.
Not sure which country is the best fit for your move abroad? The Ideal Destination Finder takes the guesswork out of the process. It's a customized 22-question assessment that reveals your top 3 destinations based on your lifestyle, priorities, and budget. Instead of spending months researching and second guessing, you'll get a clear, personalized short list to guide your next step abroad. And it could save you thousands by avoiding the wrong move. You can get started now at adventurefreaks.com. Just scroll down a little bit and you'll see the ideal destination finder on the left. Just click it and start the assessment. I also put the link in the description, or you can click the QR code above. Now let's get back to the video.
Yeah, St. Petersburg, Russia, 1993, a very, very heady place.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're partying, we're having a real good time, and he's flush with cash, and he's telling me all these fantastical stories about life in Russia. And look, I mean, I love Philip, a great dude, but a bit of how do I want to say? A bit of a braggart in some regards, right? You never
Yeah.
really know what's real and what's the little added flavor. Um, Had a great time. He bounced back to Europe, and I got on with my non-directional life, right, of
Hmm.
drinking too much beer and bouncing at college clubs. And a couple weeks later, he calls me again out of the blue. Look, there's a job here for you. Want it? If you want it, Paul, but you got to be here in like 10 days. What's the job, Philip? And he's like, well, head of security. Whew, okay, well, let's do this thing. And I agreed. And I was literally in Russia. I think it was 12 days after that first initial phone call. And
Wow.
that was the ignition of my international trajectory, quite frankly, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up in Russia and I ended up working for this nightclub and casino and restaurant in St. Petersburg as head of security. And Russia in 1993 was insane
It
in
had to
terms
be
of,
fantastic.
oh
Just
my Lord,
fantastic, especially when you're that young and you're
it
working at a
was
nightclub. It had to be
it
incredible.
was Ray, it was incredible, you know. And
Yeah.
when I think back about it, it was probably the most alive I'd ever felt
Yeah.
because it was,
Yeah.
I went for adventure and danger, and I found both in good measure, you know. Yeah, it was out of my depth and sink or swim, quite frankly, right? And
Yeah.
I'm a pretty how do I want to present myself? I'm pretty meticulous and I'm pretty persistent and I show up, right? And I'm all about putting myself out there because I've found that when I stretch comfort zones, I
Yeah.
grow in a
Yes.
good way,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Um, and that was it. That just led to a crazy, crazy life, right? I did that for a while and ended up getting married. Wanted to marry a wonderful, married a wonderful Russian woman. Um, and it just led to a different life. I went on a 6-month commitment and I ended up staying in Russia for 18 years.
Wow. So
Yeah.
do you speak Russian?
Я говорю по-русски даже неплохо. Yeah, I do.
Wow.
Quite
So
good actually. I'm
that
told.
is, so let me ask you this, Paul, I mean, just out of curiosity, it's such a difficult language to learn. I mean, how did you learn it? And I mean, did you take like classes? Did you, or,
Ray, I think I had one organized lesson,
yeah,
and I was not a great student in school. It was not my vibe,
yeah,
and that translated over very quickly to language lessons. Right,
yeah,
wasn't my gig. I
yeah,
wasn't down with it. But look, it's when you're just kind of immersed in it and you're
yeah.
surrounded with it, and again, sink or swim. And it's
Wow.
Am I fluent? Yeah, I think I'm pretty fluent, but there's
Yeah,
no doubt that if I'm speaking to a native speaker, it'll only be 3 or 4 minutes before they pick up that there's a lot of grammatical rules and shit that
yeah,
that I haven't mastered, right? I know
sure.
a lot of street language and I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
some good cuss words and I'm quite fluent,
yeah,
and I can pass myself off to a certain degree, but once you have an opportunity, I'll put a feminine ending on a masculine word or something, and then
yeah,
it kind of starts seeping out. But
yeah.
a great intrigue, great way to start intrigue when I'm speaking to Russian speakers. Yeah,
Yeah, it's the perfect scenario too. You're there at a time when you're young and you're like a sponge.
sure,
And you're
absolutely.
so open and you're so, and you're so green yet in so many respects where you're just, that experience alone is life-changing to be in a different country at that age. And then just you're immersing, like you said, you're immersed and you just want to absorb as much as you can. It gets a little bit more difficult when you're our age now, to do that. You just can't go and pick up the
Absolutely.
Russian language,
Absolutely.
but that's just amazing that you've picked it up. You spent that many years there. So fast forward, you're in Latvia now. You're
I
in this
am.
beautiful town. You got the backdrop of it, Riga in
Yep.
Latvia. It's gorgeous there. How did you end up in Latvia?
Okay. Well, I told you I spent 18 years in Russia. I actually hooked up with an American corporation in 2005. So
Okay.
from 2005 until shit, just last year, I'm sorry, this year, I think it was April, I was made redundant from this corporate gig that I held with this American company for, 23 years. And that is what took me across the globe. This is a international company that has thousands of outlets across the globe. And I looked after Europe, the Russian-speaking world, and a bit of some dabbling in the Middle East for them for
Yeah.
decades, right? So
Wow.
I have amassed some really interesting travel stats. And this is kind of the world that I rolled in for a long time, and I never really recognized how unique it was because I was rolling with the same people doing the same shits.
Yeah.
But over 850 passport stamps and these, 8,500 flights and about 8 years in hotel rooms across some of the greatest cities in the world. I mean, I've been
Yeah.
to Paris, I suspect 25, 30 times, Copenhagen probably 40. I've
Wow.
just had opportunities to roll through so many. I just put a cities list together. It's pretty impressive. It's
Yeah.
about 120
Wow, that
cities
is amazing.
long.
I mean, we could do a
Yeah,
separate podcast just on your experiences travel. Let me ask you this.
sure.
If you sum it up, the one thing that gave you this opportunity with this company, what was it that stood out for them that gave you this opportunity? Because it's a
Okay, well,
phenomenal opportunity. Most people got to get a master's degree in international studies. Obviously, you didn't go
indeed.
to college.
Yeah, look, I'm by and large an uneducated man, Ray, right? I mean, I took a couple community college classes, but that's about the extent.
Yeah,
So my education has been in the international arena doing this global business for decades, right?
right.
But
Yeah.
um,
But
it
what did
was
but what did you need to have for them to hire you?
Well, I can tell you. I mean, I was actually recruited. This company was signing a big market entry deal for Russia. I was living in Russia at the time. I happened to be in between assignments. I was working for a French company, and I was handling service contracts for some of the oil majors like Chevron and Gazprom and
Right.
Total in France. And I would fly to Sakhalin, for example, and then I'd get on a train and then in a helicopter, and I'd end up in the most remote parts of far east Russia that you could imagine, where they're extracting oil out of the ground with could be 300 workers, could be 3,000 workers, right?
Yeah.
In these camps that are just out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I'd be on a helicopter for 2 hours over tundra, and you'd see a little flickering light. And as they got bigger and bigger, it became an oil extraction camp, right? So
Yeah.
I was charged with, doing the feeding and the housekeeping and the laundry. It's a camp that is set up for thousands of workers, right?
Yeah.
And that took me all over Russia, the Brit and West, quite frankly. I know Russia very, very well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I was in between gigs, and I happened to be I was in Sochi. I was on the Black Sea in Sochi in Russia, enjoying the weather. And I got a phone call by a recruiting company in Moscow. This Russian company was seeking a lead ahead of this new franchise market entry deal with this American company. I went to work for the Russian side, Ray, and I worked for them for about a year maybe. And I'm a pretty different dude in terms of I kind of live life on my own terms. And if that framework starts getting busted up, I got to make some moves, right? And
Yeah.
I'm working for a Russian company, and Russian mentality is different than American mentality. Certainly, my mentality,
Yeah.
very much kind of a control aspect in terms of you not only work for me, but I kind of control your life. If you can see my thumb, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I don't roll that way, and I left, and then the American side scooped me up like within a day.
Well, here's my
They
question.
were contractually obligated to have somebody on the ground. They
Yeah.
knew me, they met me. I was American. I knew the culture. Shit, let's bring this dude on our team.
Yeah, here's the big question. So there's so many young people, and if you young people are watching this, this is why I'm leading Paul into this question because there's so many young people that think, okay, you got to go to school and get a bachelor's degree. And I think that
Yeah,
that's still great. It's great if you know what you
great
want to do.
advice.
And then if you
Absolutely.
want to get a master's degree, pursue it. The problem is today, the cost is so high and the value of the degrees are so low. You got to be very, very meticulous on what you choose. And you don't have a degree, but yet you had a specialty. You moved to Russia, lived for years, and developed a language.
Sure.
Do you
Sure. And the
think that
Russian mentality, quite
you
different, right? Yeah.
so, and you're also from America. That is almost golden. If you can speak another language like
Yeah. Yeah.
Russian, and you're an American, I think that you'll have plenty of options thrown at you if you pursue it and you're out
Right.
there.
We think along the same lines in terms of, I just returned from the United States, right? I've lived outside the United States for 33 years now, right? I've
Yes.
always been back for business trips or whatever, funeral, I think in one regards, but never for more than, a week, 10 days. I just returned from 3 months in the US where I toured the lower 48. And I'm actively seeking out young people, right? And saying, hey, this was my trajectory. And it was the best thing that I ever did, Ray, was leave the
Yeah.
United States at 23 years old, right?
Yes.
That's not
Yes.
for everybody. And
No.
and I'm all down for education, a general education, college degree. If I had the means and the opportunity, I probably would have went that route.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
didn't. And thankfully, I think it's, I come from a single mother home, right?
Yeah.
And I thank my mom for instilling in me a work ethic, that matters, right? And I think that's something that's missing in today's day and age. And that, in addition to me always wanting to stretch my comfort zones, has just done me very, very well, right?
Yeah. 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 It's I look at this and I say, so for any young people that if you're interested in travel, go live in a place like
Sure.
even Korea, find your way to China. If you can
Yeah.
develop, if you can become bilingual and speak Chinese and English, man, I mean, you don't need a degree. You are solid, you are gold, and people will hire you and pay you a lot of money just having that ability to do that. So here's my next question is so you went to the American side. Are they based in Latvia? Is that what got
No,
you?
no, 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 not at all. I mean, it
No.
was I hooked up with this American company. Obviously, I'm based in Russia at the time. All of my activities were in Russia, and then Turkey came on board. So now I go to Turkey, and then Denmark, and Spain, and France, and Belarus, and the UK, and Switzerland, and all these additional markets start coming online, and that just led to a tremendous amount of this travel, right?
Yeah.
At that point. This was about 2012. There were some really wonky elections in Russia, and I'm pretty left in my leanings. That's probably a reflection of who I am and where I've lived and how I've moved.
Hmm.
And my wife is very similar in ideology, but writing was on the wall in terms of where Russian society was going with this current regime, right? And
Hmm.
and I live on the third floor across from a voting station, and I'm literally witnessing all this bullshit, fraud, and ballot stuffing, and all kinds of crazy stuff right off of my balcony. And at that point, it was kind of like, okay. And then I went to this company and said, hey, I've been in Russia a long time. We've got new markets now. It's time for me to get out. And they were like, yeah, Paul, we can agree with that. So that led uh, to us coming to Latvia and Riga and setting up home base in Riga.
Okay. So is
Yeah.
that kind of an easy transition when you're living in Russia to move to Latvia?
Well, thankfully at the time, Latvia had a buy real estate gain residency scheme that we
Okay.
took advantage of. So we purchased a property here in Riga, and that is our primary property. And with that comes Latvian residency, right?
Okay.
So without that, it would not have happened.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
it was really easy in terms of, my wife is Russian, my son is a native Russian speaker. Obviously, they both speak, fluent English. Um, but shit, I'm a 50-minute flight from St. Petersburg and an hour and 10 minutes to Moscow,
Yeah.
and there is a tremendous amount of Russian speakers in Latvia, in Riga.
Okay.
So just really, really easy. I mean, anybody over 30 speaks Russian, in addition to Latvian, some
Hmm.
English, and anybody under 30 speaks English. So,
Yeah.
really easy in that, whether my in-laws who are Russian were going to come to visit or my folks or whatever, there's a base of language here that worked for everybody, right?
Yeah. Are those languages close?
Not at
Latvian and
all.
Russian? They're
Not
not.
at all.
Okay.
No,
Interesting.
they're completely different. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
then you bought a property because there was some kind of visa offering
Sure,
that you could
it
obtain
was
residency.
buy real estate at a certain ceiling of, moolah, and you get residency. So we
Yeah.
took advantage of that, and it's been a great home base. Um, I think actually before we moved, we had bought a property in Italy, kind of a holiday home. So we started spending a lot of time in Italy. You referenced Italy earlier. I was in Liguria,
Uh-huh.
just about an hour drive from Sanremo, about an hour and 20 from Monaco, Monte Carlo. Really
Yeah.
nice up in the mountains,
So
an ancient village. This crib
that's where
was like
your house
400.
is?
It was. We
It
just
was.
sold that about 4 months ago. Sold this
Oh,
property in Italy, but that kind of led to, okay, we have this property, this holiday home in Italy. It's time to get out of Russia. Where are we going? Latvia was the choice because it was close, it was easy. They had this residency scheme,
yeah.
and we pulled up here in Latvia, and it's been a great little spot. We've been here about 13 years now, I
Well,
think,
it's
and
beautiful.
yeah. Oh,
It's
it's a phenomenal, phenomenal city. It is a
yeah.
gem.
Yeah, I
And
could
I will say this, winters are for shit.
yeah.
I'm an old man. I spent a lot of winters in northern Russia and Europe. No more for me, bro. I do winters in better weather nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, so walk us through that visa requirement. So if somebody were to move to Latvia, for the viewers watching, they want to move,
Sure.
there's many beautiful cities in Latvia to purchase real estate. What is the requirement? I mean, how much do you have to spend on real estate? How
Okay.
much is real estate going in a beautiful city like I'm looking at behind you? I mean, what can you
Yeah,
get? Did you
it's
buy an
phenomenal.
apartment? Did you buy an
Uh,
apartment or a
we
house?
bought an apartment. We bought an apartment. Yeah. So
Okay.
I have a beautiful. Oh shit. It's, compared to American standards,
Yeah.
not big, right? I think my apartment is, if I put it into square feet, probably about 100 or I'm sorry, fuck, 1350
Yeah.
maybe,
Wow. That's
something to that.
huge. That's
Well,
a
it's a
big
three
apartment.
bedroom, two and a half bath, 2 story.
Wow.
It's a nice apartment. It's a
Yeah.
really nice apartment, right? And I think we had a valuation done probably within the last 8 months, and it's about 300,000 euro, which is not a huge
Okay.
amount of money. You
Yeah.
put that into dollar terms, and what is that? Maybe 360 USD, something to
Yeah.
that effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
But look, I'm in and I'll share some photos with you if you're interested at some point, but I've got fucking floor to ceiling windows, and I got I'm 2 kilometers from the old tower that you see right behind me. And
Yeah.
I've got, I see the salutes on the river on New Year's because I have this phenomenal view. I'm 5 stories up. I've got a real nice penthouse apartment
Yeah.
for, in a European capital for USD equivalent 350,000,
What's the
What can
minimum?
you get in US?
Yeah. What's the
Nothing.
minimum price you have to purchase a property for
Okay.
to get residency there?
Sure. That has gone up over the years, and I
Okay.
just checked the scheme before we connected, And right now it's 250,000 euros,
Okay.
right? So if you're going to buy in Riga or Jormala, which is another resort community about 17 kilometers away on the coast from Riga, you have to spend 250,000 euro to apply for this residency scheme. You also have to deposit 5% of your purchase price into the uh, state revenue as like a deposit. You just hold it there for the duration, right? So 250,000 euro to purchase a property in Riga or Jormala, and that gets you residency. You can
Okay.
also spend 250,000 if you're interested outside of Riga. You can acquire two properties, but the total sum must include 250. So on
Okay.
balance, you got to be ready to buck up 250,000 euro,
Yeah.
but that will get you residency in Riga, a reoccurring for 5 years. Every year you go down and you get a new card, but that
Hmm.
residency is for 5 years.
Now, Paul, are there any options for the retirees watching or anybody watching that they don't have that money to purchase a property? Can they move there on some form of a residency visa and show an income requirement or
There are several, Ray, there are several schemes out there, right? Some is based on real estate purchase, some is based on investment into the economy. So if you're investing into a business, some of it, there's called a European Blue Passport, where if you bring some cultural expertise or, some real specific skill set with you, they consider that as well, right?
okay.
But we talked about earlier about finding a place to live. And look, I've been in Russia, or I was in Russia for a long time. For years, I've been trying to figure out where is that next spot. I knew the US wasn't it. Not to dog on the US, but I appreciate my life a lot more here than there, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I've looked at Portugal, I've looked at Spain, I've looked at France, and Riga at this stage seems to me the most efficient and cost effective, right? Now, again, I've been here for 12 years, so a lot of my vetting was done before, but I still believe it kind of stands. And look, let's be clear here. Riga or Latvia, it's not a rich nation, right?
Right.
It's one of the poorer European nations, but very, very sophisticated and quite refined, right?
Yeah. All
Worst
right.
places to be.
So it doesn't sound like there's an option for retirees that just are like they have a Social Security income, another pension attached to that they can prove, hey, I make this amount of money. Do you
I think there might be. I
think
think
there
there
may
might
be? You're
be
just
because as,
okay.
as I'm looking at these schemes, I keep referring to, there's like a $1,500 or 1,500 euro monthly, what's it called, need or
A threat, yeah,
stipend
like
that
a
you
threshold income that they got to prove.
exactly where if you can have that and you can do this, you can, you
Okay.
can apply or seek that
Okay.
scenario.
Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting because to me, I mean, Riga is just, it's gorgeous. I think, I look I'm just looking at your life, Paul. You're almost like you're living a dream life in many respects. And plus, the fact that you've been able to explore the world through this organization that you worked for is just brilliant. And you and I know when you have that opportunity to see the world in a way that most people don't, it's so educational. You learn
Sure.
so much about yourself, about other cultures, and the similarities and the differences, but it's just such an educational experience and to develop as a human being. So now you're like going, okay, so we've been in Latvia, but I hear you had a place in Italy, you're considering Portugal. What is that about? Why would you want to leave this gorgeous, beautiful thing? Is it the cold winters or what?
It absolutely is the cold winters. Look, Ray, in a perfect world, and I don't discount this scenario, right? I've kind of keyed in long ago that I need options. I've layered in options in my life, right? And
Yeah,
if I can have like three operating bases, I'm pretty good.
yeah, yeah,
So if I can hang out in Riga for 3, 4 months of the year. Maybe I bounce down to Tenerife for 3 months of the year. And,
Yeah.
shit, maybe Da Nang, Vietnam is an option. So I like geographically strategic options, mate. And that's kind
Yeah.
of what I look for in creating.
Yeah. So, okay. So I got a couple questions about the Italy thing. So you bought this house in the northern part of Italy, fairly close to France.
Sure.
So I'm surprised because a lot of people buy properties and they can never sell them in Italy. Were
Mhm.
you concerned about that, or did you buy right? And how, I mean, because there's a lot of properties that are for sale in Italy all over the place, and there's
Sure,
great
sure.
prices, houses, everything, but people can't get rid of them when they
Yeah.
want to. So how did you do that?
Ray, I've kind of taken a mantra of my life from a very early age that I'm gonna live this thing on my terms, right? And I roll a little bit differently. I'm first to admit it. I'm a big character dude, and I'm not gonna, a standard 3-room apartment down on the coast in San Remo just doesn't tick my tickets, right?
Okay.
So I actually bought a shit. It's in a medieval mountain village of about 800 meters elevation. It's on a peak, and it is 1,000 years old, and it's my apartment itself was about 400, 500 years old, but it had all the modern convenience and obviously been, updated throughout the years. But very finite amounts of places like this. This village was on the official Italian list of the 100 most beautiful villages in Italy. And, those types of properties, I find that
Okay. What
character
village?
properties hold their value.
What village was that?
It was a village called Triora, 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 which is in Latin is three mouths,
Okay.
and it
So
sits on three little mountains.
see, now that's a brilliant secret too, because there's what you said. How did you word that? You said there's a historical village and it holds value because why?
Because it's unique. It's
Yeah.
very unique. This
Okay.
village had the last witch trials in Europe, right? So it's the
Okay.
witches' village.
Okay.
13 women were convicted of witchery. The court or the trial was actually held in Genoa, which is the municipal, capital of the time. So a lot of history, and
Yeah.
every Halloween. The place is overrun with probably about 5,000 people. It's a big weekend. Halloween weekend is massive, right?
Yeah.
It's internationally recognized as the Witches' Village, and rightfully so. It's
Okay.
pretty crazy.
So you were strategic in buying in an area that you knew.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we use it as a rental, So if I'm going to buy a holiday property, it's going to be pretty banging in some aspect, right?
yeah. Okay. And
Yeah.
then you guys sold it, you got out, and
Sold it, got out, and now kind of like thinking, what's next? I told you I was made redundant from my corporate gig. I have uh, I have a beard brand, Tan Santa's Fine European Beard Care,
whoa.
right? That I make here in Riga. So I'm leaning into that right now. You referenced your acting past. I just filmed a movie in Riga this past summer. I'm not an actor, Ray. I just fell into it, but this is a major motion picture with Hollywood A-listers, and I got lines. I get to use my Russian skills. I'm probably in 14 scenes. If I'm not on screen for 20 minutes, I'm gonna be pissed, right?
Yeah, that's
So this
fantastic.
is gonna premiere in May of next year, and just craziness about.
Yeah.
I was recently profiled in a book by an American psychologist. I'll share that with you. I was going to flip that over before we connected, but
Yeah.
I'm profiled. I think I'm probably 22 pages or 24 pages, kind of a synopsis of my life. But the title, this is an American psychologist, and the title of the book is Decoding the It Factor, Ordinary People Living Extraordinary Lives, or something to that effect.
Okay. Can you
And it
get
just
that
kind of
on Amazon?
outlines. You can get that on Amazon by
Okay.
Dr. Don Steele Jr., an American psychologist. He works with governments and professional sports teams and corporations.
Wow.
And I met with him for I think it was about a 6-month process. So I'm in Europe doing my thing, and He was a professor in Michigan at the time, and I would connect with him for about an hour every week for like 6 weeks. And I'd pop in and I'd be in, Madrid or Marseille or Aarhus in Denmark at 2 in the morning on my video screen.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's just a talk about performance psychology and thought process, and
Yeah.
okay, what were you thinking at 23 when you
Yeah.
left the United
Sure.
States and all this stuff. So
Yeah.
a lot of weird stuff going on in my life. I'm unemployed, not making any money, but I'm trying to figure out how to monetize all this stuff as we go, right?
Yeah. 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 That's it. Well, it's interesting because like for guys, like I'm similar. I've traveled a lot like you, not as much as you, but I mean, it seems easy for us. I mean, I can get
Yeah,
on a plane and I can go anywhere and feel comfortable everywhere. And I've always
yeah,
been like that. I don't have a
yeah.
discomfort of any, you could put me in any part of the world and I can blend in. And I love
That's what I like to say. Drop me anywhere and I'll
anywhere. Yeah.
figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, you blend in, and I just kind of I love to immerse myself in that culture and the food, and it's just always a wonderful experience. Okay, so all right, so now we're in. I just out of curiosity, what's do you know that can you reveal the name of this movie that you're in, and how did you land this gig for?
Craziest story, craziest story. So, the name of the film is called Out of This World. I can tell you
Okay,
that, Out of This World, right? But I was coming out of my barber one day in Riga, and I was stopped by a young woman. She said, "Hey, you have a distinct look. Can I take your picture? I work for a production company here, and there's a lot of work happening in the Baltics, right? A lot of international works."
yeah,
And I'd actually taken part. I was an extra in a Judd Law movie, Wizard of the Kremlin, which was just
okay.
recently put out. So
Oh, yeah, yeah,
uh, I have a rather prominent extra role. I play a new Russian nightclubber, right? So I'm all decked out in some badass shit. And this next role was, look, a director has seen your photo. So they take my picture, she puts it in the database. I get a call several weeks later. A director has seen your picture. He wants you to come in for a meeting. I go in, I meet the Spanish gentleman. We vibe real good. He's talking about my experience, my life. I'm telling him about Russia. I see his eyebrows pick up. You speak Russian? I say I do. He gets a little bit more animated. So this role obviously has to do with Russia in some aspect, right?
yeah,
And it does. Um, but that led to it was a 34-day shoot here in Riga, and I'm involved. I was on set for 12 of those days, 12-hour days. Like I said, I'm probably in 16 scenes. I play the leading ladies driver and security detail.
yeah.
Can't give away too many details, but phenomenal experience. I just absolutely loved it. I found the director to be a genius, and the opportunity to hang out with some Hollywood A-list actors was quite an experience.
Can you reveal who they were or one or anybody or
I
no?
I can. I think I can. So Riley Keough, she plays she's the female lead, and that's Presley's granddaughter. I think she was in the Mad Max series recently on the
Hmm.
cover of Vogue, Chanel woman, quite big. I didn't know who she was before I landed this role,
Yeah.
but then obviously now I see her everywhere. And then the second one was just, I'm just so over the moon about having the opportunity was F. Murray Abraham, which if you don't know who he is, he's just a monster of film. He Academy Award for, I believe he played Mozart's Nemesis Salieri
He
in
played Antonio Salieri and won an Academy Award
exactly,
for that role.
exactly,
So
phenomenal man, 87 years old and just
yeah.
spry as can be. I
Well, I
was
got
well impressed with Mr.
something
Abraham.
that's interesting where I got my degree in acting was Brooklyn College. And
Okay.
F. Murray Abraham was the professor that taught acting in front of the camera there.
That's insane. A real quick story, Ray. So
So
we had
it's
a rap
small
party on
world.
Friday. Small world indeed. We had a rap party Friday night in Riga, right? We're 10 hours ahead of the West Coast in the United States. Friday night, having a beer with Mr. Abraham. Mr. Abraham, what are your plans? Oh, I premiere on Broadway Monday.
Yeah.
This is Friday night in Europe. He's 87 years old,
I
man.
know. No,
But
he's
he's going to be
absolutely.
premiering on Broadway on Monday
Yeah.
and 8 shows a week. He was telling me. Incredible.
No, yeah, he's absolutely brilliant. He's a brilliant man, and to be able to, learn scripts and perform live at that age is unbelievable to anybody who's been in the business for a long
Sure.
time, So and
Yeah.
he's still doing it, which is so impressive. And
It really is
I'm so
amazing.
happy for
Amazing
him.
guy.
Yeah, it's just awesome to see. Well, that is really cool. So the next question is Latvia affordable? What do rents start out for? For people that want to go check this place out, they want to go say, hey, this might be a potential place to retire. I love the seasons. I don't need year-round warm weather.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
love a European beautiful country. Riga, it fits that description. Is it affordable? And what do rents start out at?
Hey, look, it's Ray, it's very affordable, and I think Europe has certainly recognized that. It's kind of a staple now in terms of, look, you're looking for a cheap getaway or a cheap weekend. Riga is a great little option for that. But I've always been fascinated about real estate and rental prices and values, not only here but internationally. It's just kind of a thing that I do, right? I like to know what's going on. Very affordable. I see one bedroom apartments, I mean, we're not big, right? This is
Yeah.
Europe after all,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
a one bedroom, 50 square meter apartment, what's that? 550 square feet, something to that effect.
Yeah.
Uh 450 euros a month, right?
Okay.
Uh, that's pretty. I see three bedroom, two bath apartments for 1,200 euro a month, a
Okay.
thousand a month, right? So it really depends. I know plenty of expats that live in Riga. I'm sure that their average spend on a monthly basis is not more than shit, 1,600 euro, 1,500 euro, and I know plenty that do it on the real cheap, right?
Yeah.
For 1,000, 1,200.
So Latvia is very, very inexpensive and affordable compared to
Compared to
other
the United
European other
States,
other
oh
European
shit,
countries as
absolutely,
well.
absolutely. Compared to other European countries as
So
well, absolutely.
if you can live on 1,000 to 1,500 a month there, that's pretty impressive in a European country.
1,500 a month here, you could live, quite normally.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
living in a beautiful city. So if you go out to the smaller cities, do the prices drop?
Cheaper. I mean, I think kind of as a rule, if you're going to live in Riga, and I'll say this as an expat, right? I don't prescribe to um, this budget, right? But I
Yeah.
know people that do. Uh, 1,600 bucks a month, 1,700 bucks a month in Riga. That's a pretty good existence, right? If you're
Yeah.
going to move outside of Riga, look, I mean, there are plenty of smaller communities outside of Riga. You probably save 400 bucks on a monthly basis, right? Just on
Okay.
that capital region kind of
Yeah.
price difference. Yeah.
Are there any other interesting, beautiful towns in Latvia that
There
are?
are there are plenty, but the further you get out of Riga and Jurmala, which is the resort, the beach town close
Uh-huh.
to Riga. Riga's on a river, right, which
Okay.
empties into the bay of Riga, and then we have Jurmala. Like I said, it's about 17 kilometers from Riga on the Baltic coast, right?
Okay.
Um, you get outside of those areas, and you're not going to find very much English. And if
Yes.
that's something that you would need, you would have great
Yeah.
difficulty, right?
Yeah.
So
You're going to be glued to Google Translate on your.
very much. But look, I know people, and not only Americans. I mean, there are quite a few international expats here that have taken up farming, for example,
Yeah.
or with dairy, cows, whatever. This is a very agricultural country. It's really uh, environmentally astute in terms of taking care of it. Really, in its sustainability. It's very, very clean
Yeah.
here, and a lot of people resonate with that type of lifestyle. A little
Yeah.
quiet for me to live outside in the farmland, but beautiful, phenomenal, and some really, really, Riga's 825 years old, as an
Yeah.
example. the
Yeah.
city itself. So we're dealing with some age, right? We're in Europe, and
Hmm.
you get all that old European charm that you would wish you would, right?
Yeah. And describe the weather quickly, just as for the people. They always ask me
Oh,
about. So I mean, like, how long is the summer there?
the summers are short. The summers are short.
Okay.
So June, July, August, that's your summer,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And uh, the winters are the difficulty for me, having lived so long in Northern Europe, Northern Russia, right?
Hmm.
I can't do this cold anymore. But um, the winters are tough. They're long, they're dark, they're wet, they can be
Okay.
cold, there can be snow. It
Yeah.
can get really gloomy, and I suffer from psoriasis,
Yeah.
and that's what kicks my ass off to seeking winter sun every year. I'll
Yeah.
be bouncing to Tenerife here in about 4 weeks' time, where
Nice.
I'll hold up for 7 or 8 weeks for the worst of the winter to pass.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Good for you. So
Nice, very very affordable in Spain as well. Yeah.
now, are there any places in Latvia to go like skiing in the winter to take advantage, the hiking?
It's a hill. It's a hill, right? I grew up
Okay.
in Washington State, skied as a kid, Snoqualmie Pass, Crystal Mountain, all that fun stuff. This is like the the hill down from the bus stop.
Okay.
If you're yeah, not much.
Not much.
Not much.
Okay.
One chair lift up and one run down,
Yeah.
and you're done in about 37 seconds, right?
Well, what do people do in Latvia? I mean, for entertainment, for fun. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people and there's a lot of retirees that don't like heat. So
Sure.
they prefer a climate like this because and there's a lot of people that love the seasons. They love the change
Yeah.
of the seasons.
Look, this place has a big draw, right? I would say that it would be a very attractive spot for American retirees, right? Um, just because I'm balanced, like I said, I just returned from the United States. It's expensive as F.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
kind of shocked, and I'm like, why would people pay this when the quality of life is quite better over here where I'm
Yes.
at,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's a nice little spot. I would wish that the authorities, the Latvian authorities, would be bit more user friendly. It's really not, and you got to kind of know what you got to know because there's not going to be a whole lot of hand holding and assistance
Okay.
in maneuvering all these things. But look, if there's a will, there's a way. There's plenty of resource. There are people you can pay to help you navigate all of the requirements and all this other stuff of getting integrated.
Gotcha.
But from a cost standpoint, yeah, this is a really good place, and it's a Riga is probably about 500,000 now. I think at a peak it was about 700,000. Latvia as a whole, I think, peaked out at about 2.2 million. Now it's about down to 1.7, with Riga being about 500,000. But a
Hmm.
very sophisticated city, wonderful restaurants. My wife is heavily into the theater, so a lot of, good cultural aspects that living in a North old European capital you would expect, right?
Right.
One of the great things is the architecture.
Yeah.
Riga holds, how do I articulate this? I think Riga holds the most Art Nouveau architecture in the world
Okay.
um, for a city its size. There are, I think, last somewhere around 800 Art Nouveau buildings. So if you're walking around downtown Riga, I've been here 13 years, man. Every time I go downtown and look up, I see something new
Yeah.
because these buildings are just so ornate and
Yeah.
absolutely stunningly beautiful. And everybody that comes here is like, oh my God, I had
Yeah.
no idea this place even existed.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's the unique thing. That's the other thing. Like how many when you say you've met expats that live there, have you met many expats from America or Canada?
I have,
You
and
have.
I have to
Okay.
say, yeah, I have. I have to say, Ray, straight out the gate, I'm one of the Americans that kind of avoid other Americans.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I've seen a lot of different Americans blow through the countries that I've been, where I've rolled, where I've lived, where I've worked. I
yeah.
can't always say I've appreciated what I've seen, right?
Right.
So
Yeah,
I'm not the guy that buddies up with the expat night out or whatever that looks like, right? I kind of like to live my own life. I have a very small circle, and my circle is generally speaking not American expats. There
yeah,
might be one or two of them in there somewhere, but I've lived in several countries. I've worked in several more countries, so my circle is rather different than a lot of other expats would expect, I suspect, right?
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, look, my son has gone to an international school since kindergarten here, and the
Okay.
international school, and there's several international schools in Riga. Offhand, I can probably think of five or six of them. One might be German, one might be French, one might be, obviously, there's a couple of Americans. So
Yeah,
several hundred, and then, the embassy here is a big embassy. It's quite important geographically speaking where it sits. A lot
yeah,
of NATO, a lot of military here now. So there are a lot of expats here, not necessarily coming here to retire in that regards,
yeah.
but a lot of expats that are living
Hmm.
in Riga, Latvia, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, all right. So we covered some of the entertainment aspects. Do the theater, the beautiful architecture, restaurants. How much does a meal cost at just a common typical Latvian restaurant? How much are you going to pay?
Ray, if you were to go out to a good evening out in Riga with dinner and drinks, you and a second, right? I suspect you could get away with spending 45 euro,
Okay.
right? So for two people, not terrible, right?
No.
Um, Again, you can spend 350 if you like,
Okay. So a typical
or you
meal.
can go a little bit closer to the ground and spend, 22,
So you're going to
right?
pay. So for a single person, when you go out to eat and grab like a lunch or a meal somewhere at a local restaurant, you're going to pay about $20.
Sure, and that's going to be a good meal, right? You're going to have a
Okay.
drink. You're going to probably have maybe a beer or two, and a soup and a soup and an entree, right?
Okay.
Or a
And what it,
salad and an entree.
and what does the Latvia fare look like? What do you get?
I would say, kind of the foundation is kind of like peasant food, right? A lot of bread is a big one, right? There's a really dark bread that they make here that they're very proud about. That's really, really good.
Uh-huh.
Um, a lot of what do you call them? Peas and beans and earthy type stuff,
Okay.
right? But then you can layer in a lot of meats, a lot of grilled meats,
Okay.
um, fish, right? We're on the
Nice.
Baltic Sea, so
Yeah.
fish is always on the menu. Um, yeah, I can't say traditional Latvian cuisine is very sophisticated,
Yeah.
right? But it's hearty and it does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But the restaurant scene as a whole has is quite sophisticated, and you can get Latvian cuisine, kind of fusioned out if that works.
Yeah.
Um, because there's such an international influence here, right? So top chefs always coming through Riga, or Riga chefs traveling and coming back and doing
Sure.
really good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great information. Transportation, getting around. Is there a metro there, or do people rely on
There
public?
is no underground, but there's quite an extensive tram line and trolley bus.
Okay.
Yeah, quite extensive public transportation.
How much is that per month? Do they sell like passes or how per
They,
ride?
they they do, and I don't know what they are, unfortunately. But I just
Okay.
took the bus for the first time the other day, Ray, and I think it cost me a euro 25 for one
Okay.
ride,
Okay.
right? And I know that if you get like 30 or 50 or a monthly, you obviously get some savings on that.
Some
So
some kind of
look,
discount.
the average, I want to say the average salary in Latvia is probably about, in dollar terms, shit, 11, 1,200 bucks, right?
Yeah.
So life has to be manageable in that, and it is,
Sure.
right? So transportation, the doctor, if I went to the doctor just to have an appointment, a consultation, probably cost me 35 euro, which is fine. That's not terrible. In the US, I don't even know, probably costs you 270 just
Right.
to go in and have a consultation, right?
Yeah, yeah, easy. So yeah, that's a great segue into healthcare. I mean, are you on some form of insurance? Do you have an insurance coverage, and
I do.
how do
I have a
expats access it? How do they access the healthcare there?
there are two things here. So I travel a lot. My family travels a lot. So we do not have Latvian insurance. I get a global package from EXA insurance, and I'm covered. My family is covered. How does this work? Any country in the world outside the United States and Hong Kong, I want to say.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I mean, I carry insurance. I think our max is about $2.5 million limit, and
Okay.
I pay about just shy 10,000 a year for a
Okay.
family of three, right?
Okay.
Now that's different, but if I wanted to go the local route, I certainly can. And I just looked at this recently. I could get a local insurance package that would take care of me here locally for under $1,000 a year. I think it was like 80 bucks a month or something to that effect, right? Now, granted, there are probably waiting lines and all this other shit that you're going to have to deal with, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you're not going to die, right?
Yeah. How's the healthcare there with the quality?
I've had medical in about 8 or 9 countries, Ray, and I can say that, by and large, it's all been pretty good. I can't say that America's healthcare now, if I'm in the elite facilities in the United States, of course, I'm
Sure.
going to get the best care. But if
Right.
I'm going to the local medical clinic down in Hoboken, New Jersey, or wherever else,
Right.
shit, I kind of like what I see here in terms of
Yeah.
how they operate.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's a good point because like healthcare is exceptional in the US. The reason it gets ranked so low on so many rankings around the world now is that if you're not wealthy, you can't access that healthcare.
Sure.
That's the problem with America, that people can't
Yeah.
access the healthcare that they need because it's just too costly or
If you got the money, you got the best healthcare in the
yeah,
world,
and there's
right?
some insurances that just won't approve certain procedures because it's just too costly. It's a weirdness that happens in the U.S. here. So that's good to know. It sounds like it's very affordable. Let's talk about you. We didn't just break down a couple costs here for the viewers. Utilities. If you're going to rent an apartment over there, what are you going to pay approximately per month on utilities like electric, water?
Okay, sure. Yeah, yeah. I suspect, if you're not a family of four, if
Yeah.
you're one or two, you're probably going to be spending about 150 a month
Okay.
in utilities. In the summertime, winter can get probably up to 250. In our case, I think it can go up to maybe closer to 350.
Yeah.
We've got two floors and, floor to ceiling windows. We heat a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, 150, maybe 250 in the winter.
Okay. And how about
Yeah.
groceries? You were just in the US visiting, you noticed the high cost of the prices here. Are they more affordable in Latvia, the groceries?
I have a whole freaking side story on food. When I go to America, I don't do well because the food is different,
Yeah.
right? In terms of, um, it's not good. It's overprocessed. It's it's if I bite into an apple, it tastes like plastic and it's all genetically engineered. In Europe, it's not like that. And every single person that comes visits me wherever I've been in Europe and throughout the 33 years I've been abroad, they're like, oh my God, the food is so different, right?
Yeah.
It is different. And when I go to the United States, I feel like shit after a couple of days. Then I figure it out what I can, what I can't eat. The food is much better here and it's much more affordable here. I think the average, what was it? I just looked at this the other day, right? I think the average spend on groceries for a person living in Riga was about under $400 a month, right?
Okay.
It was like 370 euro a month or something to that effect.
And that's for one person, would you say, or two, or
Oh, I think that would be one. Yeah, I would be well surprised if a couple of two couldn't get by on, $450 a month in groceries.
yeah.
Right.
So, oh, I wanted to ask you about like cell phone and Wi-Fi. What do you
Mm.
pay? What do you pay for that?
It's funny. I just went down there because I got turned off when I was in the States. So I have uh my internet is $20 a month,
Okay.
and that's internet plus cable. So HBO and couple other things like that. $20, 20 euros a month, I'm sorry. And my mobile service is also 20 euros a month. So I think I spent 39 euro a month on my mobile and my internet at home and
Okay.
TV.
All
Yeah.
right. The last thing, Paul, for the people thinking of moving to Latvia, is there anything else that you can think of we didn't discuss that could be beneficial for anyone
Uh,
considering a move, retiring in Latvia?
Let me just say this, and I will say Latvia would be a great choice, right? If you were intrepid enough and adventurous enough, and weren't afraid to put yourself out, a really, really nice reward would await anybody that came here and spent some time here. The Baltics are great. You got Tallinn in Estonia, Vilnius in Lithuania, Stockholm. I mean, you could literally weekend every week. You could go somewhere different. Air Baltic is based here, the national carrier of Latvia. Plenty of sales. Flying is cheaper in Europe than it is in the United States.
Yes.
You can get to Cyprus for 29 euro sometimes. So, and the network is quite extensive, right? So, look, it's a
Hmm.
wonderful place. It's cheap, it's beautiful, it's sophisticated, very, very interesting people. It's international, very, very diverse in that regards, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful place. If I was getting any advice, I would just say do it, right?
Yeah.
Don't second guess yourself. I left the United States as a young man. I'm very fortunate that I did. I reference that as probably the igniter of my trajectory in life. And I've had a really good life, mate, right? I've done some
Yeah.
really crazy shit, and I feel very, very fortunate for that. So, yeah, do it. Lean in, take the jump, get out. Life outside of the United States is freaking phenomenal. Certainly in Europe and where I flow, and I know it's the same. I met a lot of people in the U.S. this past trip, and they don't know. They just don't know, right? And
Yeah.
my overriding observation was over the last 33 years that I've been gone, America has not looked after herself very well.
Hmm.
And there is a shitload of opportunity abroad if you have the backbone to go get it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's really it.
Yeah.
It's not that hard, man. It's not that hard. If you have a little, like I said, if you're a bit intrepid and you're not afraid to put yourself out there, the world is your oyster.
Yeah. Well said, Paul. Well,
Yeah.
Paul Pasco, the Tan Santa. There he
Yes.
is. Th-
Trademarked. There'll only ever be one.
Hey,
YouTube
man.
at Tan Santa.
I appreciate it, Paul. Thanks for sharing all of this amazing information and shedding light on Latvia and Riga in your life. This has been brilliant, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time as well, Ray. I'm new to your game. I appreciate what you got going on. If you want an update from Tenerife, hit me up in about 6 weeks and we'll do it all again, man.
All right, buddy. Well, you have a great rest of your evening, and I'll talk to you soon.
Good stuff. Ray, take care of yourself, man.